One final show for this week as we end off another week of common knowledge. Let's take a look at some more common cards and see if any of them are good for Pauper. We will start with Lash of the Whip. Lash of the Whip is 4 and a black for an instant. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turn. This is too much mana. 5 mana to give one creature. You know, if this was a sweeper, maybe we'd have a little bit more of a conversation. But 5 whole mana to give -4/-4. It's nice that it could take out indestructible creatures, but you don't have a ton of indestructible creatures that you deal with in Pauper. I just think you end up using better removal spells than this, and you don't play it. You don't play it at all. I will give it a 1.8. Next on the docket is Wild Dogs. It's a single green mana for a 2/1 dog. At the beginning of your upkeep, if a player has more life than each other player, the player with the most life gains control of this creature. It also cycles for 2 mana. So you can discard and you draw a card. Interesting. It's interesting. I don't remember seeing it before. Okay, I remember a little bit more from this Urza Saga art. I do like this. I do like this old frame with this new art, though. Randy Vargas, solid job. Anyway, this is a Savannah Alliance in green, in that it's a 2/1 for 1. That's kind of cool. The cycling is nice. Cycling's always nice as a little bonus on any card. The idea that you always have to have more life than your opponent, and in Commander, all of your opponents, but in Pauper, that you always have to make sure you keep a higher life total or you lose this creature. And if you did lose this creature, I think you're in a bad spot. I think you're in a pretty bad spot. And I think having this creature isn't necessarily amazing. So I think it ends up being more of a liability than anything. I think it's cool, mostly just because of the art, but I do think it's kind of cool. I don't think it's worth 2.1. I want so badly to give it a 2.1, but I don't think I can do that. I'm going to give it a 1.8. Next up is Sea Legs. It's a single blue mana for an aura. That aura has flash and it enchants a creature. Enchanted creature gets +0/+2 as long as it's a pirate. Otherwise, it gets -2/-0. That's cute. That's kind of cute. Like having some modality there, being able to either hamstring an opponent's creature or upgrade your own creature's toughness. Just having the toughness boost to your creature is a little rough. I think if this said enchanted, even if it costs 2 mana, I really wouldn't play it at 2 mana, but if this said enchanted creature gets +1/+2 as long as it's a pirate, otherwise it gets -2/-1, I'd be more inclined, because then it feels more like a removal spell. It has a chance to kill a creature, or at the very least, it gives you a bit of power to justify that. Outside of that, I don't know. It's cute, but it doesn't really do anything all that impactful. And I think generally you're going to be pretty unhappy with the results that this card is going to give you. I'm going to give it a 1.5. Yeah, I think a 1.5, and just keep on moving. To Hidden Spider, single green mana for an enchantment. When an opponent casts a creature spell with flying, if this permanent is an enchantment, it becomes a 3/5 spider with reach. We did Opal Gargoyle somewhat recently, which is similar, but it turned into a 2/2 Griffin with flying. And that costs 2 to put it down. So the idea that you're paying 1 mana and potentially getting a 3/5 out of it with reach, that's a really good rate. The problem is you need your opponent to cast a creature spell with flying. And there are some decks where you can kind of guarantee that. Against fairies, you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to go up against a flyer. In like an Orzhov Blade deck or an Esper Blade deck, you can pretty much guarantee that with the core Skyfishers or the Glinthawks. I forget the name of Glenhawk. And also you have plenty of refurbished familiars out there that are certainly flyers that everybody's playing. So there's opportunities to get this to be a 3/5. But you are at the mercy of your opponent. You have to show this information before your opponent plays that stuff. So maybe they don't even play their flyer. But probably more often than not, they just won't care. They'll be very comfortable just playing their flyers and not really worrying about it. They're probably playing more than one flyer to overwhelm something like this. But you cannot deny that 1 mana for 3/5 with reach is real good. Man, this one's actually kind of a tough call. I'm gonna give it a 2.6, and I think that's too high. But I think it's a really good rate if it works out. And I honestly think Pauper has enough flying creatures or enough decks that have flying focus to them that this ends up working more often than not. Tragic Slip, single black mana for an instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, but it also has Morbid. So that creature gets -13/-13 instead until end of turn if a creature died this turn. Tragic Slip is a cool Magic card. I think you'll find that you'd probably use it a little bit more often in something like Commander, because you could play this on an opponent's turn when an opponent kills a different opponent's creature, or they kill one of your creatures or something. There's just more opportunities for creatures to die in Commander, where you get to play the big effect here. In Pauper, you either have to kill an opponent's creature or you have to lose a creature to make this happen. And that happens. I mean, Mono Black has plenty of sacrifice decks that are sacking his own creatures all the time. Secret Lair. Oh, I was like, Secret Lair Giant for $77, but it's an office one, of course. Anyway, I think Tragic Slip's okay. It is not one of the premier removal spells in Pauper, but it's a good card generally. I'm going to give it a 3. I'm going to give it a 3. Next is Unnatural Predation. It is a single green mana for an instant. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn. Okay. Here's the question. Would you rather a giant growth +3/+3? Or would you rather this +1/+1 and trample? I think more often than not, I probably end up wanting the trample. I mean, I'm in green, so I probably have bigger creatures anyway. I just need them to get through. And the only reason I would pick giant growth is my creatures would already have trample. And if they naturally have trample, then obviously you want the bigger power and toughness boost. But I kind of like it. I kind of like this. I like the art too. This is okay. This is okay. You probably just have better effects than either this or giant growth that you play in Pauper. And combat tricks don't get played a ton in Pauper anyway. I think that's more of a limited thing. That being said, I think this could do work in a Pauper deck, and I'd like to see somebody give it a try. I don't know if that person's going to be me, though. I'm going to give this a 3.8. Next up is Seton. I mean, it's the college is Seton Hall. The magic character, not sure. I'm gonna say Seton, and it might be Seton. I don't know. We'll say Seton. Seton's Desire is 2 and a green for an enchantment aura. It enchants a creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2. It also has Threshold, so as long as you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, all creatures able to block enchanted creature do so. Interesting. Like, as a 3 mana for +2/+2, not amazing, especially on an aura that very easily allows you to get 2-for-1. The threshold is cool though, giving a lure effect. And lure, I believe, costs 3 mana on its own. Yes. Yeah, lure costs 3 mana on its own to just get this effect. So the idea of getting a lure that also gives a +2/+2, and yeah, sure, you have to have the cards in your graveyard, but if you're playing this, you're probably in a deck that can get cards in his graveyard pretty easily. It's okay. It's okay. Do you put this in like a Bogle's deck? Maybe. I mean, that deck plays Malevolent Rumble, so it has ways of getting cards into your graveyard. And then forcing your opponent to block. I think more often in Bogle's decks, though, you give something flying, or you make it harder to block in that way, or you just don't care. Your creature's so much bigger, and it has trample, and it has lifelink, and it has all this shit that, you don't care if your opponent blocks or not. You're going to deal enough damage that you're going to gain life from the lifelink. And if they do block it, you already have trample that you're going to trample over. Who cares if they try blocking it with everything? So I think it's just kind of priced out of its usability in Pauper. I don't really see another deck wanting this card too badly. I'm going to give it a 2.2. No, I'll give it a 2.3. I'll give it a 2.3. And we'll keep on moving to Bog Serpent. Bog Serpent is 5 and a black for a 5/5 Serpent. This creature can't attack unless defending player controls a swamp, and when you control no swamps, you sacrifice this creature. So this is a it's not a time shifter card. It's like it's from Planar Chaos. So it's taking a card that was already around, or a card very similar to this classic Magic card, and saying, well, what if it was in a completely different color? And this is generally what we call Island Home, I believe. Well, something with Island Home means it can't attack unless, or actually, I think Island Home says if you don't control an island, the creature dies. But many of those cards also will not allow you to attack with this creature unless you have an island. So this is black doing a version of that. It's pretty bad. Swamps are not ubiquitous enough. You don't see them in every deck. I don't think this is enough of a color hoser that you'd want to put a 6 mana 5/5 with a bunch of drawbacks in your sideboard on the off chance that you get to play against a black deck. And even if you do play against a black deck, are you going to get to 6 mana? Is this thing going to come out and just get murdered? Probably. Maybe by the card Murder. Probably not in Pauper. I think we have better removal spells than Murder. But, yeah, Bog Serpent, not very good. I got excited because it is a serpent. Thinking like, oh, if this is like a Tolarian Terror in black, that's kind of cool. But it's not. It's very much not that. I'm going to give this a 1.1. It's really bad. Too bad to really consider playing. Berserkers of Blood Ridge is 4 and a red for a 4/4 human berserker, and this creature attacks each combat if able. The biggest problem here is that I think you find that red has cheaper creatures that you're gonna play over this. They probably don't have as much power, and they certainly won't have as much toughness, but you're being able to play 2 or 3 goblins on the turns before turn 5 when you get to finally play this. You would rather that. You'd rather be more aggressive. You have to wait until turn 5 to get this thing out. And then it has to attack each turn if able. Well, if you're playing against a Tolarian Terror deck, they might already have a 5/5 out. If you're playing against some green deck, they probably already have some giant monster out already that eclipses this power and toughness. I don't think this is valuable enough to really make a difference at this point. So you'd either have to up its power and toughness some more, give it some kind of ability. If it had first strike, still probably wouldn't play it because it still costs too much. Yeah, this has a lot of things going against it, and that ends up leaving it with, let's say, a 1.9. Last card of the day is Dismantling Blow. It is 2 and a white for an instant. It also has Kicker of 2 and a blue, so when you cast this spell, you can pay an additional 2 and a blue during that cast. And you destroy target artifact or enchantment, and if you kicked it, you get to draw 2 cards as well. 3 mana to destroy an artifact or an enchantment is too much. You can just play Disenchant, and you don't really even play that in Pauper, but you could. And then the idea that you pay 6 mana to destroy one thing and draw 2 cards. I wouldn't call this modality, really. Like, it gives you more options, I suppose, but I think both of the options are pretty bad. Pretty bad. It's had nice arts over the years. But yeah, this is not a particularly great card. I will give this a 2. 2 feels strong, but I'm going to give this a 2. Let's get ourselves a bonus card and then get on out of here. It's Iron Giant. I used to have this in a Pauper deck, and I just took it out. It is 7 mana for a 6/6 artifact creature demon, and it's got Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. That's it. It's a French vanilla card. It's got a lot of French to it, though. Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Those are solid abilities. So I have this in a mono green, or had this in a mono green Urzatron deck, where I was, obviously making tons of mana because I have the Urza lands. And if you have all 3 Urza lands, you can make 7 mana. This thing costs 7 mana. 6/6, Vigilance, Reach, Trample. Those are all good things. But it was kind of the worst creature in my deck. There were other creatures that did more. There was Ulamog's Crusher, which just does a little bit more than this. It's stronger. It costs 8, but it does way more than this. Brambleworm is in that deck, which does good work. Generous Ent is in that deck, which does good work. I just had enough other big beasts that I didn't really need this, and I ended up replacing it with Fierce Empath, which, a 1/1, certainly a far cry from a 6/6, but costs less, so it's something I can play earlier in the game. And when it enters, I can search my library for a creature card with mana value 6 or greater and put it in my hand. So it's a tutor to get to those bigger creatures instead of just potentially drawing a slightly worse creature than the one I really wanted, which was the Crusher or the Brambleworm or something like that. So it ends up just kind of being on the chopping block. And then I decided, those Fierce Empaths are better than the Iron Giants. But I do like this card. I played this in Limited. I played this in my pre-release and liked it there. It felt real good. Yeah. It's cool. It's big. It is big. But I think you just have better options in Pauper and in most things. But I guess this could work as something that, you have those cards like is it Odric? Who's like, hey, if a creature has Vigilance, we all have Vigilance. If a creature has Trample, we all have Trample. And this does give you 3 pretty decent abilities. Not the best ones, but it does give you 3 pretty decent abilities to use with something like that. I like this card. I will give it a 4.6. 4.6. I think that is fair. I think that's fair. I think that's going to be it for this week of Common Cards. We'll be back next week with more common knowledge. Hope to see you then.